The Death of Robin Hood is a grisly look at the truth behind the legend, and here to talk to us about it is the merry man who wrote and directed the film for A24, Michael Sarnoski. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome to IGN Live. Let's start off with just a little table setting about what you're doing here with the Death of Robin Hood, which is obviously a very well-known story, Robin Hood's. This is a very different take on that story. What does the Death of Robin Hood fairy tale and your adaptation of it kind of add to that overall myth?
Yeah, so this is kind of a reinterpretation of the old, almost millennia-old story of the Death of Robin Hood, which was one of the earliest myths around Robin Hood in the sort of early ballads. And this is kind of a gritty reimagining of that story. What if Robin really were a real human being who was this kind of medieval bandit that had a kind of problematic history, and how would sort of the end of his life look from a deeply personal standpoint?
It's so we're catching this hero that is kind of coming to grips with the cost of that heroism almost, and it's so Hugh Jackman really carries that weight as well. If you're looking for somebody to do that, you can't really do much better than that. Robin Hood's also a story, it gets retold a lot to fit the time that it's set in. That's why we keep coming back to these heroes. For you, what types of films, both Robin Hood and otherwise, did you find yourself kind of looking to for inspiration?
Yeah, the biggest one for me on this is a Bergman film called The Virgin Spring, which is this beautiful film that actually was the original inspiration for Last House on the Left. But what I loved about that movie is that it is a movie that sort of examines nature at that time and how connected people were to nature, and both how that fed into their relationship with spirituality and sort of the divine, and also the brutality and death that sort of surrounded them at that time as well. So that was a big one. And Valhalla Rising and The Revenant were really big inspirations for kind of the action of the movie, because we wanted it to be very like under your nails and kind of unpleasant and brutal.
It is certainly, I think, unpleasant and brutal. There are multiple times in this movie where those are the number one words that come into your head. And it's actually a great transition to the clip that you've brought for us, which is definitely both of those words. Why don't we roll an exclusive look at the Death of Robin Hood?
20 winters ago, you murdered my cousin, Walter of Hathersage. You have murdered my sons and my grandson. As Warrigal, I accept your life and the life of your daughter.
Oh my God, that is making my hand hurt just looking at it.
Yeah, we have a lot of hand stuff in this movie.
It's
painful
hand stuff, eye
hand
stuff.
and eye stuff.
It's all awful. I hate it all, and you deploy it very well.
You're welcome.
That scene that we just watched, it keeps going past that, but there's so much about that clip that we just cannot show on this show. But I want to talk about what Hugh Jackman brings to the role, especially in this context, because that feels, I think, more berserker rage-coded than anything else in the movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, Hugh Jackman spent a lot of time playing Wolverine. He was a steward of that hero, that character. Did you notice any sort of specific behavior that Hugh took towards Robin Hood in similarly preserving that element of heroism or what a hero should be?
I think what excited Hugh about the movie and what excited me about Hugh was that, yes, on the surface there's this kind of like aging hero dealing with his legacy of violence, but I think he was really excited to kind of like boil it down to something more essential, to get into action that doesn't feel superhero action but feels like just an old man trying desperately to kill someone in the mud. And like that was fun to like design these scenes that sort of don't feel like, these aren't like these, you know, incredible fighters dancing around doing all this crazy stuff. It's like these are just people trying not to die. And I think he was excited to try and figure that out, and then try and figure out sort of that transition into the really like internal world of this Robin Hood character, and how to kind of show both the intense brutality and violence of this character and that kind of internal, thoughtful, intelligent, eventually kind of warm character that is hiding beneath that as well. And yeah, watching him kind of do something similar but take it in a completely different direction was really inspiring.
And like, it felt maybe like he had like a sense of responsibility to Robin Hood in that same sort of way.
Yeah, I mean, this whole movie is really about the Robin Hood character even coming to terms with his own legacy of like folklore and of the stories that people are telling about him that aren't true, and how much of that did he have a part in. And so it really is about Robin Hood grappling with what it means to be Robin Hood.
Yeah, well, kind of continuing off of that idea, this film for you within the own sort of, you know, line of your work, Pig, Quiet Place Day One, these are both movies that have a lot to do with characters coming to terms with their own mortality or the idea of mortality. So for you, was that part of what drew you to telling this story in the first place? And how does this continue the conversation for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that's what fascinated me about the Death of Robin Hood story, was that as a kid, I loved like the Disney Robin Hood and all that stuff, and I loved the Costner Robin Hood. And then I got this copy of an old Robin Hood book that had the Death of Robin Hood legend in it when I was like 10 years old, and it like didn't make sense to me. Like I was like, wait a minute, so you're saying that this like dancing fox died quietly in like a sunlit church bedroom in this like very human, simple way? And I trying to like figure out how to pair the sort of stories of this adventurer with this very like human, like sort of spiritual death was really like fascinating to me. And I think that's what I was kind of exploring for the last 30 years of my life, being like, how do I explore that in a movie, and how do I do that justice? So there was something about like a folkloric figure dying and trying to come to terms with that, what that means as a child was really important for me.
Yeah, well, speaking of death, we're at IGN Live, and I'm very cognizant of the fact that this is a building full of fans that would come after me with hammers if I didn't ask you about Death Stranding. You are making Death Stranding for A24 in collaboration with Hideo Kojima. We're so excited. Where are you at with that?
I'm very excited as well. I'm writing the script right now, and hopefully almost done with that, and really excited to dive into it. I've been talking to Kojima and A24 a lot about it. They've read a draft, we're working on some revisions together, and they all seem super excited and happy with it. Kojima has been really generous in kind of letting me play in his world, but let me tell a story with my own characters and my own sort of corner of this world, but keeping it honest to the game and doing something that fans will really like. So it's been a great process so far, and I'm really excited to share it.
It must be so helpful too with that guy. He is clearly such a lover of film.
Oh yeah.
Have you gotten any like interesting film takes out of him yet?
Basically just, I was impressed that when he read the script, he like, without me needing to talk to him about it, he knew every single like reference. He was like, oh, you're doing a come and see reference there. I see that, I like that. Like he just knows movies incredibly well.
Yeah.
So that's been very cool to see.
And I also understand that, I think this is out there, that like this is more of an original story set in the Death Stranding world.
Yeah.
Rather than an adaptation of Death Stranding 1 or 2. What is most appealing to you to being able to have that kind of window into this world?
I mean, I think that's what I loved about doing Quiet Place, was that, okay, I get to play in this sandbox, but I can have my own characters, I can explore something that's meaningful to me. I think there are such fundamental themes in Death Stranding about connection and expression and all of this stuff that like, it was easy for me to find a character that sort of made sense in that world that I could really dive into. And there, you might see some characters from the game pop up, but like it definitely feels like something that could happen sort of alongside the game and honors what's going on in the game, but very much is its own thing.
All right, so we'll tell Conan O'Brien to keep his schedule clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us here at IGN Live. The Death of Robin Hood hits theaters on June 19th. Check it out to see if we made up everything that we just said. Guess what? We didn't. And in the meantime, stick around for more IGN Live 2026.